chamber, but also to those who are watching us this morning, Assets Committee meeting. And so we'll get into it. We won't have any apologies because we've got a full turnout. And I'll ask, are there any declarations of interest? Right, so we can move on to item 3, confirmation of previous meeting minutes. They're in front of you. Any errors or omissions?
I'm happy to move those minutes as being true and correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Bullstein. There's some prepared to second. Second, Councillor Holding. Any discussion at all? If not, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. That's carried. Thank you. If no one wishes to speak to the public excluded minutes, we can actually adopt them now. But if anyone would just speak up if they wish to speak to them, and we'll go into public exclude later. But if not, we could actually include or do them as we go. No one speaking up. So any errors or omissions there? If not, someone care to move? Move Mayor Kircher. Seconded Councillor Deputy Mayor Cavendale. Any discussion at all? If not, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
No, and that's carried. Okay, moving on to item 4, memorandum reports, 4.1, roading investment audit report results. Mr. Harris, or perhaps Mr. Hope.
Yeah, no, I'll go first. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it was really just taking this opportunity to highlight the results of the formerly NZTA audit of the work undertaken by the roading team. The thing that intrigued me most, other than the very pleasing result, was the descriptions of the scale where effective is seen as the highest measure possible. How they do engineering of them to understate, really superb performance. I think the overall grade is effective, which is the highest grade possible, with only some minor areas for improvement. So it's a real reflection on Mike and the team. So yeah, that was my comments. Is there anything you'd like to highlight?
Through the chair, thank you for that. There's nothing. Well, the only thing I'd like to highlight is the collective effort of the whole team, because it's while there's a few of us that are very focused on putting it together for the audit, it does represent the effort that goes on every day, and we checks and double checks and supports each other all the way through. So it's a great team effort, and I'm very pleased that to the council.
Thank you. So it's a very positive result. Anyone wishing to comment? Questions? Mayor Kircher.
Thank you. Yeah, just congratulate the team. I mean, people will see this and think, well, my road's not perfect. Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't about the measure of the roads themselves, but what it is saying our processes are good and we are applying the money that we do have effectively and doing a good job. So, that is everything that we ask of you. But for the rest of it, really, it's about, can we get more money from Waka Patahi to actually help us spend more money on our roads? And the problem is there. We actually have some roading that we want to do, but we can't get them to bring forward the funding to help us do those things. We've got, we're okay, quite happy to provide funding. So overall, the team is doing very well. I just want to pass on my congratulations for the very, very good result in this audit, and thank you for that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I've echoed what the Mayor said. Congrats, Mike, to you and your team. Well done. And just the effective grade is the best you can achieve. But there are a couple of areas where they say there is some improvement needed. I'm reading them. They appear to be pretty minor to my understanding.
Are they able to be remedied without too much trouble from the team's point of view?
Through the chair, we left those ride with the report. Not entirely sure the auditor did actually identify those in the documents he was really looking at, but we take it on the chin and say, well, we can do better with making sure they're there. But the answer to the question is, the auditor didn't see those activities or those points. We would actually say that we're dealing with them, but we just elevate those so that they're a bit more obvious.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pimble.
Yeah, well done, and the pity about the terminology they use, because it is very rough almost. Very job well done. But just two quick questions. I've talked a couple of times around late tenders and how we deal with them. What are they trying to get at there? Like, what are they trying to achieve?
Through the chair, all they're talking about late tenders, we need to have a very good process with how we deal with them. We don't actually have late tenders that I can think of that came up in my time anyway, but what they're really talking about is how we document our process in our documents, and so we will certainly strengthen that to make that a clearer process.
So it's an issue that's not really an issue per se.
It's an issue around the documents, but it's not an issue about how we behave.
Yeah. And just one other question. They talk about the council's resident survey, which they've sort of mentioned that it's a bit subjective and that they use other measures that are a bit more objective to, measure how you guys are doing. And obviously we tie a lot of your KPIs or however you put that through to the resident survey. Just wondering if we need to be wider in the way we look at things.
Through the chair, I think we'd be quite happy to actually look at those, but it's some of those are the DIA measures that we put in there, so there's not a lot of scope. We have reviewed those for the long-term plan, and sometimes it's hard when you've got an absolute metric, when you talk about trends, but it's also the referencing that to the history that we've had over several years. It gives a picture of how it's moving and what the feeling of the community is. So I don't think we can actually have a good answer
No, that's right.
to those questions.
But yeah, well done.
Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Mike, getting such a glowing audit, is it going to make it any easier in our applications for future co-funding?
Through the chair, I love that question. Yes, it does help us because it does put us in a position where we are respected by the Waka Katawi, and that does keep us as a good investment partner with them at the table. We are consistent with delivering how we're delivering it and what we're delivering. So if there is an opportunity out there, we are standing to get first dibs on anything else. It is drawn. The funding that comes from government does go to the greater need, I guess, or the larger population basis as a starting point, but as a rural community that's supporting goods and primary industry through the country, what happens in our rural network is important. We have a big network, and that does keep important to us. So having this report does give us that support. So it is.
The staff will still have to spend the intensive hours they do in their applications. It won't reduce the detail that is needed to be done. As say, well, obviously detail has to be done, but there's a lot of staff hours put into these funding applications.
Through the chair, there is a lot of it that goes into these funding applications, and government processes are what they are.
Good answer. Councillor Wilstein.
Yes, sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add, I meant to say when I spoke before, Mike, that the report states that the Waka Katahi Investment Advisor, yes, we are consistently in the top 5 of 78 territorial authorities. So to be in the top 5 of 78 councils New Zealand wide is a very good effort. So again, well done to you and your team.
Thank you. I think we're at the stage where we can call for someone to receive the report. Councillor Cavendale, seconded Mayor Kircher. Any further discussion? Not all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no, and that's carried. Thank you. We move on now to page 27, activity report. we'll just go through this page by page. Starting off. And though, just put your hand up when if you have any questions. So, activity report, page 27. And I'll just take the opportunity to welcome Josh Rendell to the chamber. Josh is the Assets Operations Manager. So welcome to the meeting, and we look forward to your input. Okay, any questions on page 27? 28, 29, 30, we're in Three Waters. Any? That's Percival.
Yeah, Josh, regarding the new reservoir, there were a few problems with leakage on the that have been repaired, obviously.
Yeah, we had some water leakage in the tunnel. It's still past the hydrostatic testing, so the leakage was sufficient enough to choose as far as commissioning or testing of the reservoir. That has been patched since. There was only a minor leak.
Just a reminder, Josh, I don't want to be too hard on you, but all of the people here, don't be afraid to speak up. Anything further on page 30? Page 31. Okay, Councillor Tavendale.
Just on your increase in inquiries, just thinking about the issues they had in Dunedin. What is our process like if contamination is found? I guess I'm just looking to see, obviously there's some issues with communication and how quickly information is found. Do we have safeguards around that for if we find anything?
Through the chair, we do. We follow our water safety plan. One of the first things we do is we advise public health staff and seek guidance from them as to what we should be doing. We certainly don't have an issue like that in Dunedin. We've been sampling lead off and on over the years, and another further round of sampling found out anything for sweet. If there's any contamination issues from a E. coli or a boil water notice, that gets notified immediately, and it also goes out to the water stream as well. We have really strong processes for notification.
So when the information comes through from the test, it is straight away highlighted. It's not going to be something that gets lost in an email trail or anything like that.
Through the chair, it goes to 4 staff for that very reason, so it doesn't get lost. And it almost exclusively gets a phone call to a water monitoring officer in the first instance anyway. I can assure you that our process is very strong.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Marty, just on your Redcastle pump station screen replacement, I assume there's always been a screen there. This is a screen replacement. So is this going to ensure the water coming into the reservoir is cleaner than in the past or improving the efficiency of the actual filtering plant?
Through the chair, this is to remove larger diameter debris like grass and stuff like that, so it doesn't block the pumps. The initial screen that was put in there was installed with the initial build in 1984, so it's been knackered for a bit. It took us quite a while to get this one on board because they had to come from over in some of the COVID-stricken places of this world, so it took us about 7 or 8 months to get it here, and currently getting the mechanical build to install over the next couple of weeks. So it'll make sure that our pumps don't get blocked so that we have a more consistent supply of water to our reservoir. It doesn't make the water any cleaner, it just stops the pumps get blocked.
Right. Just follow up. So it wouldn't have, doesn't make any, at that time when we're a bit short of water due to the turbidity of the water coming in, it doesn't affect that at all.
Through the GMO. It's purely to remove large debris from blocking pumps.
Thank you, Marty.
It's worth about $80,000 the unit itself. The whole project will be about 120.
you for that. Moving on to page 32. Page 33, we're moving into roading now. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Mike, it says here that work has been taken in collaboration with RRC on the river work. How's that funded?
Through the chair, we're working through that. It's coming out of all the effective budgets we have for if we can do under river restriction, the other environmental controls otherwise. But with the RSC, sorry, RSC? Well, the regional company, yeah, so the river, that is sort of a new area for us because there's been not a lot done there. So we need to talk about the level build up, some of the pressure's been putting on. So working with RSC, they've been happy to actually work with us to get into some of the river beds and pull gravel out. And then we've got hold up with DOC. So we're actually hoping using the RSC here to help to work with DOC and working more with DOC now. Just got meetings checking up now so we can reach the future.
So does that come under the 50 grand we allocate annually for river training? Does it come out of that budget or does regional council take it on?
We're hoping the regional council can take more on and we'll just assist them on the way through. At this stage, so it's early days for us because we have been in the space of in a real program with them.
This work is already under working class all the way there.
We're just taking it out of other budgets.
Yeah.
Councillor Woolston.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for your report. And just looking at page 33, there's a great photo of the main road, Waihemo. It just raises a question in my mind. You can see all the debris, timber debris built up behind the bridge. It looks like along the fence line on the side there, debris from previous floods, which has been put along the fence line. So it's there ready to be a major flood, to take it off and put it back behind the bridge again. So just to make, my question is the timber when you clear from behind the bridge actually taken somewhere well away so it can't be returned by a later flood to the same location it was found in?
Yes, certainly to bring it downstream. We're very cautious around when we put it because even putting it downstream from that one bridge, it ends up at other structures further downstream. We were quite concerned with the Kakanui Bridge because there was a significant build up on the railway bridge upstream from that. So we talked to when we were clearing the bridge at our end, we were making sure that we were going to walk away from a cleared bridge and find out that another lot coming down on top of us. So
precisely. Yeah.
And even if they released it at the wrong time, the Kakanui was quite concerned with is that if we had the log jam sitting in Kakanui and we had more logs come down, what effect that would get. So it was quite a bit of time around that. Previously, some of the timber removal has gone into places where it might not have been the most optimum place to put it. It's got to be better at that.
Yeah, right.
And then we're looking at where the timber actually comes from too.
Okay, thank you.
Page 30.
Yeah, just comments around the river training that Councillor Percival talked about before, asked about. We've had feedback that it's increasingly difficult to be able to take gravel out of rivers. Definitely some rivers have had over extraction of gravels, and that's a problem. We have, on the other hand, rivers such as the Ototana, which is increasingly getting clogged with gravel, which goes into, eventually makes its way into the lake, but has nowhere to go after that. You know, we've been told that contractors are having difficulty getting access to that gravel, but regional council hasn't been very helpful in allowing access to that. But having talked to the local weekend councillor, he says that that shouldn't be the case, that they are keen to get rid of that. So long story short, is there anything that we should be doing, talking to regional councils about access to gravel that would both help our case, ensuring we've got good supplies of gravel for our roads, and also blocking areas such as the Ototana stream, making sure that flooding is.
Through the chair, I just reiterate what I was trying to say before, that I understand in the past the regional councils have been the handbrake, if you will. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but that's been a challenge to actually get into working in the rural spaces. There seems to be a change with the both ECAN and particularly Otago Regional Council, where they're working, what they're talking with us about it, and there seems to be a greater appetite. I'm trying to work with DOC at the moment because we also have constraints about working in the waterways with DOC. So I'm just starting to talk to them to see what the issues are there and see whether we can actually deal with that. So it's been bad.
Fantastic.
Mr. Chair, I just like to point out is that ECAN has put on a has come to the prevention we have. Just like that.
Yeah, no, it's, obviously that was initiative led by us to actually make them do that, encourage them to do that, shall we say. But, 2 weeks ago, there was a bulldozer working in there. All it was doing was moving gravel out of the centre of the bed and onto the sides. This is about actually getting it out of there altogether and deepening the gap under the bridge.
Totally understand. But we are working under their consents and they are providing some official advice and stuff for that project as well. Something just like that.
That's personal.
Just in reply to Gary, and tonight, the last regional transport committee meeting, we brought up that fact about extraction with regional council and NZTA, and they were going, and in fact the DOC were inhibiting a lot of progress in the Cowra particularly, and the Kakanui, and they were going to prioritise sorting it out. So I don't know what's happening, but that was the priority they assured us at that point. So that hopefully will have some effects soon.
Thank you. So that's something that we keep chipping away at. Page 34. 35.
I just asked questions, sorry, Mr. Chair, back on 34. Just that bridge on Lago Hill Road, looks like it's well underway in that photograph. Is it due to be finished by 31st of March? Is it well on the way, Mike?
Through the chair, yes, work is going very well there. There was the 2 bridges working on, so but working very well. We're open on time, so
Thank you. Yeah.
in fact, just one other thing, I did see the plants have arrived for the rehabilitating of the lizards.
Pleased to hear.
Good. Very good. Yeah.
Page 36. Moving now on to recreation on page 37. Councillor Kavanaugh.
Just around the aquatic centre, have we done much work on what the barriers might be for people wanting to put their hand up for those roles?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have had a number of applications. Some of the applicants that we've been looking at have been offered other jobs in alternative places at a higher rate. So Victoria's entry rate is higher than what we're paying here. It's also probably seen as a low skilled type of task. So we do suffer a little bit from that. The other difficulty we're having is the time it takes to do police checks. So by the time we find applicants and the correct forms for police checks, some of our applications for those checks have a month and waiting. So obviously people get a little bit frustrated. We're not alone. As I've indicated, other councils going through the same difficulty.
I understand it's the level of the role of things, but obviously with other jobs at council, when supply becomes an issue, we put that in salary expectations. Do we revisit?
That's probably a conversation we do need to have. Obviously, we do use a banding type system. And that possibly doesn't have to be revisited.
Because obviously it's a bit of a, I guess, philosophical question of do do we pay more to get a service or do we cut services? And
Absolutely.
thank you.
You all know that I think twice now we had to reduce our hours for 1 day of the weekend. There has been a reduction by 1 hour, and we have chosen times where traditionally it's a very, very low use. I think the last time we reduced it, I think we let you know. So,
Yeah, can I just go back just to the Elster Ocean, Eric? You're saying that case has been made to MB for cost repairs. Can you give any update on that or anything else regarding other repairs improvements to the trail?
well, I made an announcement for the flood damage work.
Yep.
Could be made any day now, which I can get back. Under the projects, I think we've listed with the Friends of the Ocean, made an application to the Taylor Community Trust for the budget. Yes, for the cost of the works for our Hokomo Bridge Pond, also for a new toilet for the new section of trail. Pleased to advise that as of this week, Taylor Community Trust.
Well, thank you for that. That's great news. So well done to the Friends of the Elster Ocean. But just a follow-up question to that, the balance of the funding for those projects, is the balance of the funding available to ensure the projects can be completed?
So I'm just working on a claim at the moment to Envy for $1 million.
Nice.
Obviously, we'll go a long way to
Yep.
pay for those costs. And we're just doing a lot of funding at the moment.
Very good. That's great news. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Likewise, congratulations to you and Friends of the Trail for that. The new toilet, so it's going on the new section between South Cutting and what's this is sort of a midpoint.
It's through Mr. Chair, as effectively the location we will put a temperature at the moment. It's basically where the dock land extends out to Lake Benmore. So we have consent permission from dock to location in that location. It's probably about 2/3 of the way along the trail from South Cutting. This location, if we do the vehicle access connection. And very long do actually have one at Ivory as well. More dam is sort of quite Meridian, and obviously we have camp ones.
Yeah, I just acknowledge the wait that Councillor McGrovey has had for such a toilet. We're very relieved now.
There has
Thank you.
been a temporary one in place, so I hope he's going to be on too long.
You wish to reply?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I'm not a member of this committee, and I'm pleased at this particular point I'm not, because I can say quite a lot. That's otherwise be able to say, but no, seriously, it is good to hear about that. But could I just make a suggestion that the colour of the current Portaloo doesn't meet requirements of environmental visual standards, because it's red, I think. I'm assuming the new one might be appropriately coloured to fit in with the environment.
The new one will be chosen from a standard palette section, will be similar to those.
Thanks, it's good to hear that news too about the funding. So,
So moving on, page 39. Now the property, page 40 of Mrs. Julius. One. Councillor Tavendale.
Just a question on community housing. How many do we have on the waiting list? Or do we have
We do have waiting list. I actually do not know offhand exactly how many are on it right now, but we certainly do have a list. And since this report was written, we actually have 5 vacancies now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we actually do have lined up most of them. So I think 4 out of the 5 have actually got lined up with tenants. As I put in the report, there is some issues with getting contractors, particularly in Palmerston. So we have 2 in Swale, 1 in Daycare, and 2 in Palmerston. So we have engaged an Omro-based firm since the Palmerston contractor was unable to action, and the Omro contractor is having the exact same problems trying to source subcontractors.
Just through the chair, do we do it just as the who's at top of the list gets on there, or do we do the needs assessment with that?
We do a needs assessment.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, just on the Holmes Wharf project, so really good to see that next and last stage of decking is going to get done. So we've ordered the timber, was that on a similar deal to what we had last time? So we've got a good deal. Yeah.
And
So
we did it
all,
before the pricing.
yeah, and all the best for that procurement process for the contract. If that goes well, we can start on that and see some really good progress this year. Thank you.
Mr. Wallstein?
Yeah, and just following up on Nick Kirch's question, Renee, I see it's 1,798 square metres of timber. It's a lot of new timber. So there'll be a lot of old timber taken off there as well. What is the method for disposing of the older removed timber?
Mr. Chair, we will have some requirements for it internally. So for example, the Parks and Recreation team have actually asked for some of the projects. But the stuff that we don't need will actually be offered out to the public at that point. We have had a few inquiries up until this point. And what we're trying to do is to make it easier on staff and more time efficient is by doing an offer once we know exactly what we've got. Sometimes it's terrible and wouldn't be good for March.
Yeah, sure.
But there will be some that will be reusable.
Thank you, Renee.
Further questions on page 41? Well, that's it.
Second.
Thank you. Move councillor Holding, second councillor Wallstein. Further discussion? If not, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. That's carried, which concludes our Assets Committee meeting. We'll just take a short break while we change seats now and proceed with our next meeting. Thank you. Your first.
It's us.
First
In that role.
Close, but you're still live.
Ask Michael. We're on the side of one.
Oh, I think I stopped it. Oh, all right, councillors, we'll get into it.
So long. Is that the trail?
Right, welcome along to the Community Culture and Regulatory Committee meeting for March. Shuffling around a little bit. All right, and we'll get straight into it. Apologies, we've got an apology from Councillor Hannah Haley. I believe it's an apology we have. Can I have someone move that? Thank you, Councillor Gravy. Seconder, Gertrude. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against, that's carried. Right, any declarations of interest? Right, we will move on to the confirmation of previous minutes. Is there any question or discussion on the previous minutes? Right, or can I have someone move it, please?
I'll second it because I was only here for half of the meeting.
Councillor Gravy and seconded Councillor Hopkins. Any other discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against, that's carried. Scrolling onto the district plan update.
I-
I missed something here,
I'm
sorry?
happy to move the public excluded minutes if no one wants to speak to them.
All right, does anybody want to speak to the public excluded minutes? No, so they're moved by me, Kircher. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, councillor Hopkins. So no discussion on that. So all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Right, so district plan update.
Right, good morning, everybody. Thank you. We'll get straight into the report. We have Ms. Clark here to present the report. There's some exciting developments now really starting to come through the district plan work, chapter development, landowner engagement, and the spatial plan, which I'll hand over to Katrina to update us.
Thank you. So since we had our last district plan update, we have also workshopped a number of additional chapters with the CCR committee district plan workshop. And we have now got an outstanding of 12 chapters left to workshop with councillors. We've recently been preparing for landowner engagement and have now sent off our first batch of letters to landowners in the Mackenzie district, sorry, not Mackenzie district, Mackenzie area. And then we're anticipating the release of approximately another 2,000 letters later this month. So that will probably be in around two weeks' time. So that's been progressing well. We have a pop-up office established on High Street now, which will be available for landowners to come into and talk to our landowner engagement team. We have a dedicated landowner engagement team set up now, formed of comprised of a number of contractors, and Maxpro is coordinating that team. Moving on to the spatial plan, we have consultants coming down next week to hold follow-up workshops with councillors and external stakeholders on Tuesday and Wednesday. And following that, they'll be preparing the draft spatial plan to then come back to council to present their sort of final draft. The anticipation is that that will then be released alongside the draft district plan.
So just obviously, I'm sorry I missed that meeting. It was a few things there, but we're talking on the spatial planning, but we're obviously talking out to Western and Kakanui. And I guess a couple of things. First of all, making sure that the naming of it and things reflects that, so it doesn't make people not aware of what we're covering. But also just around the stakeholders. I've had a number of them talk to you anyway around things like the Kakanui part of it. And I've got some concerns, I guess, around only speaking to the communities that are involved in that through putting the draft district plan out, whether or not we actually need to have a step where we need to actually have the communities feed into the creation of the Tangleweed more. I can come and have it. Just, I guess, leaving that.
Just along those exact lines, had a meeting this morning with Otago, and Dwayne there has been given the role of something like Spaces and Places officer, some such thing. But I talked to him about the spatial plan. They're looking at how they can assist us district-wide around provision of recreational assets, etc. So as part of the spatial plan discussion, it will be very good to make sure we do it with the Sport Otago. I'm not sure if they were down as a stakeholder, but they would be able to include along the way. Thank you.
Yes, look, just a couple of questions relating to the material on page 15 and 16. 16 first, probably the simpler one. We've got, you're showing here that we haven't commenced work on the hazardous substances chapter. I could have sworn we signed that off about 2 or 3 years ago. Because essentially, as I understand it now, effectively, we simply implement what is it? the government's, you know, the.
Has no.
Yep, so,
Has no.
yes, has no regs, and I thought we basically tick that one off.
It's not quite as simple as that. That has no regulations sit in parallel. So we do need to look at that evolving area.
Do we?
Come up to the table, please? Thank you.
So, okay, so what we were told when we looked at it was essentially we had to do what Hasno said we had to do, and that was it. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Has that changed?
When we look at Timaru's draft district plan, they have a chapter specifically on hazardous substance provisions. And we're looking at utilising some of that material.
And just if I will, I guess when we did discuss it, there's still quite a few questions, and I think we actually sent the team away to just look at some other options we could look at doing as well. So I think that there was still an understanding from my view that we would have it back in front of us at some stage.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my question was, I thought it was done and dusted, obviously it's not. Just looking at page 15, we've only spent $500,000, which is very heartening. The year's budget is essentially 700,000 above that. I'm not sure if it's a question for you guys or for Paul. Would that allow us to make any change in LTP projections or charges? I mean, I think this is loan funded, but I mean, clearly the less we spend, the better it is. So would we, is that under budget spend at the moment? Does that give us any room to move in LTP terms?
No, it'd be so minor to not really worry about. Okay, I mean, there'd be a very slight projected servicing costs.
New loan servicing.
As part of the LTP work, we are doing a piece of work around forecasting what the future expenditure will be in the district plan, because they acknowledge that the current spend to date versus the budget is quite different. But we've got a number of costs that we're anticipating to come through as the consultants start invoicing for the chapters.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay. So anything else on the district plan, councillors? Alright, so I want to move.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Councillor McRovey, any other comments? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to go to the group activity report on page 20. We'll go through first of all. That's okay. We don't have to come on that anyway. So we'll start with the Heritage, Environment and Regulatory Group, and then we'll move on to
Yes, again, firstly, I apologise that the officer representation available for this part of the meeting is me. The building team representative is away at the doctors. The regulatory team representative is learning how to operate the EOC in the event of emergency, and the community development representative is doing some very good work up in Wellington, as you'll have seen from correspondence. So I will endeavour to answer any questions, but I may have to take them away and get back to you. Fortunately, it is in the sequence of the reports, it's where we present a relatively light report and just an update on some of the pieces of work that we've got underway.
we'll take it page by page, councillors, and start any questions on page 20. 21. And I guess just speaking a little bit to Safer Waitaki, Helen Elgar, who's currently up in Wellington, has just been presented with the Regional Excellence Awards from Safer Communities Hui. So I guess just on behalf of us all, I just want to say huge congratulations to Helen for that. It's basically on the back of a huge amount of work for our own community, but also being recognised at a national level for the work that Safe Waitaki is doing. And you can have a look through the report here, how many places are actually wanting to understand what they're doing a little bit better and maybe do something like that in their own community. So that says a lot. Testament to a job very well done. Mayor Kircher.
Yeah, I totally echo that, and I'd be happy to second congratulations if you wanted to move such a thing.
I would love to move a minute of congratulations to Helen Allen.
See that?
There's one Mayor Kircher. Any other comments on that?
Just to speak further to it, it's, yeah, she does amazing work, and there you go. It is a team thing, but she shows real leadership in our community, and you know, it's covering an area which increasingly councils are getting more and more into. It's filling the gaps that central government can't fill, or just seeing need and delivering. This is something which is going to be very important into our future, and I think Helen will be a very big part of that. So thank you.
And just Helen and Michelle up in Wellington at the moment are meeting with a huge number of different people, and it's going to be really interesting to see what comes from that, and no doubt we'll get some updates in the future in our reports as to what's being covered there. And I wonder, Mayor Kircher, if you'd like to talk about the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs Funding.
Yes, I do.
Nothing like leading the witnesses.
We've been, there's a number of initiatives underway, but we've been successful in gaining some significant funding to help our young unemployed people. It's specifically targeted at the needs that not in employment, education or training. Thank you. And so, yeah, it's definitely, there's a need in the community. It's when, particularly when kids leave school early and they fall through the gaps. They're not old enough to be turning up at work and income. There's, you know, there are some systems in place to try and keep track of them, but sometimes even that doesn't work. So it is identifying those young people and matching them up with the jobs that we know we have in our community, and also helping to get rid of some of the barriers to that. So it's quite a short-term contract, and that it runs until the end of June. During that time, we have the goal is to place 25 young people into work, and we've got $250,000 to help us do that. So we'll be working very closely with existing networks, making sure that we're not duplicating anything and that we're taking advantage of it. We don't have much time to get this up and running, so we really have to make sure that we are connecting well into what's already here. But the opportunities to sit, you know, work alongside work and income, work bridge, and you know, community college, a number of other agencies, you know, it's a very good one. And whether it's helping to pay for someone's driver's license or whether it's helping to pay for you know, some job subsidy for them to get into jobs, get training, whatever it might be. It's fairly open to how we use the money, but the main thing is to get young people into jobs and you know, have them contributing to the community, and obviously be in a place where they feel a lot better about themselves as contributing members of the community. So anyway, we shall see how that all goes. Really got to hit the ground running, and we are set to have another meeting on the setup of that very shortly.
Yeah, we've certainly got a lot of people doing a really good job in that area already. So it's really good to help bolster what's happening there. And this was a pilot program that was originally for rural councils that we didn't meet that criteria. So I think Mayor Kircher's been a bit of a thorn in the side of Mayor's Task Force jobs for quite some time. And $250,000 in tracking as a result of that. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I think, did I hear you say we've got $50,000? 250,000. Okay. So is that for us, or is that for some entity that we are part of?
it's for council to pass on to. We'll be overseeing that. But part of it is adding some hours to one of the people in our community who is already working with these young people, but giving her extra hours so she can do more, which would be very good. It's also seconding someone who's helping people into employment, but be able to work with younger people and what their normal criteria allow them to do. So there's that. But equally, yes, we can, as I said, use it to pay for things to help those young people into their jobs or to help employers take them on. So there's all too often there are barriers, sometimes real barriers and sometimes perceived barriers. And it takes someone working alongside them and sometimes some financial assistance to help get rid of those barriers. And equally, there's actually not too many people that aren't employable. They just need the encouragement, the help, the support, and that's what this will give them.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question, just to put it in perspective, of the 25 that we're hoping to get into jobs, how many is that of a percentage of the total that are unemployed in the district? Anybody have a stat on?
Understanding of somewhere around the idea of 100.
As far as needs go, we believe it's around 100. So it's very good. Along the way, there'll be other opportunities. Other councils that have been running this program have been doing very well. Kluka has done an excellent job. Their target over the year, they had $500,000 and they had to get 50 in it. They're now got 91 young people into jobs. Not all needs, but what it does is it really helps connect any young people or other people into jobs that are here, and just provides an easier pathway for people into employment.
And will we be collaborating, Chair, with other parties to increase that 250 to another 300 or 1,000? Because there are other entities in our district that have got funding that will help youth and young people with driver's licenses, for example, and other things.
I think at this stage for the first pilot, we've got a very, very short time frame.
Right.
So it's about growing what we can do to get some results now, and hopefully a good result there may give us opportunities in the future.
Yeah, there are things like working income have their job subsidies and so forth already. So sometimes it might be that they can provide that, but actually what they need is some tools to help them start into the job, or like I said, driver's license even. So there's some good flexibility, and this is an opportunity to show that actually councils, local government, is very close to its community. It can react quite quickly. Just have to prove ourselves over the next few months.
Excellent initiative.
Yes, it's a great opportunity.
And I guess the other way of looking at it too is it's a good way that we can support our local businesses that are willing to take a chance on some of the young people, which is exciting for us. Right, is there anything else on safety lighting? Move on to page 22. Right, page 23.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just in reference to the Indigenous biodiversity strategy not being started, my understanding again is that we actually had to do that because ECAN required it in response to some shortcomings that they perceived in our original district plan. And I thought we had been working on that. It's not complete, but I was under the impression that some work had been done. One of the things that sort of emerged out of that was the employment of the coordinator. I'm not saying that we have a complete strategy, and it's totally sensible to wait until the government's national policy statement comes out apparently in July this year. But I don't think it's right to say it's not started.
Well, we do have a strategy.
Yes, it's not started.
Obviously, but that's the update of the strategy,
Yeah.
which was required usually within 5 years period being a new strategy. That was the intention. But obviously, we are looking at still doing that, but it's going to tie in a little bit better if we hold on a little bit and put information around that.
Rightly so. There's no point doing anything until we see what further impositions central government's going to land on local government.
So I guess what's being signalled here is that it's not meeting the criteria that our expectations have been originally as government body for the timeframe. But it's just a talk of us too. Obviously, if we wanted to change the pace of what we're doing things, we can extend that direction. But essentially flagging it here and giving us the reasons if we can't do that. If we want to continue on that path.
Yeah, it's just really either probably gone the yellow or orange or red, that's all, nothing else.
Right. That's on page 23. Right, so that's all on that to the report. Can I have someone move that for me? Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Any other questions or comments? Right, I'll put that all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against, it's carried. Thank you very much. You did that well. Just do another wee shuffle around as we move on to our next activity report. We'll just welcome down the end there. We've got Francis Macklin from the House and Chloe from the Museum Art Gallery and Jenny Bean is a new member who's here on behalf of the library. So welcome. And I'll let you into it.
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the keenness of my managers to get up front and talk to us today. So firstly, as Mel's just said, a really warm welcome to Jenny Bean, who joins our first meeting with us today, and hi to Philip at home who is watching, I'm told. So yes, councillors, please go easy. This is week 2 for Jenny, so some of the questions you might have for her, we may need to come back to you. If you have some curly ones today. A couple of things to highlight through the report. Obviously, there was the celebration of the work that was done in the Hampden Library, so that was a really nice little community event that they put on, which was fantastic. Small note in the library charts, if you've looked into them in detail, the order of the colouring is slightly out of kilter, so look at the colour as opposed to the order. I'll get that fixed for next time. We've got a bit more information in here as a bit of an operational update on the project, Cfdp, and Toby is joining us today in case there's any questions around that. And we do propose in that we have a fairly detailed workshop in coming months to share more information with you.
Just those that are listening, CDP is the Cultural Facilities Development Project.
Thank you. And you'll note through the report there's been some real interest in our local exhibitions, so there's some sales and commission revenue up at the Forester, which is quite exciting. And then of course we are into the by-election stage for the Waihemo Ward Councillor, with election day on the 13th of April. So take the rest as read.
And that's it. Right, we'll take it page by page, councillors, and we'll start on page 24. Page 25.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just flagging that I briefly chatted to Chloe Searle before the meeting, and I asked if it would be possible for Leslie Fowler to maybe be involved in the workshop that's mentioned on the same page. And my understanding is that that's not possible by Zoom, but rather than have her attending in person. So I think it would be handy for us to get a feel for what she's doing and how she's thinking, and the logic of what's happening, as well as officers.
Anything else, councillors, on page 25?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not on the committee, but just a question of interest. Just in terms of the exhibitions for the upper floor of the museum, I see the work is to be completed by the end of 2021. So that includes, I assume, there's a lift going into Chloe and other work to have that work finished. Just perhaps update us on that.
Yeah, so through the chair, I guess there's sort of 2 work streams really. There's the work stream that the property's managing, which Toby's here to talk to in more detail if required, which includes putting a lift in, and that's received the Lottery Significant Projects funding, and that will be supporting work on the building. And then there's the work stream that's my responsibility around the fit out with exhibitions. So certainly properties work stream, I anticipate by 2025 will be complete. Some of the museum fit out things, they may be a little bit after 2021, but I'm confident that we'll be able to use the spaces in sort of a temporary manner if we need to, if we don't quite meet that 2021 goal, just due to the staffing levels currently at the museum. With me wearing the acting director hat and the curatorial hat, I don't want to promise things that we won't be able to deliver on time.
Right. Can I just follow up just on that? I was just about to ask, in terms of the installing of the lift, etc., will that interfere with the normal running of the museum, or is it?
I think through the chair, and Toby, feel free to add anything to it. I think there will be some interruption from it inevitably. It's a major thing to do to the building, but certainly with the work we've done on stage one, the contractors were very respectful of the operation of the museum and about the archive part of the museum function and the library. And we'll be having discussions about what work can be carried out sort of earlier in the morning, later on in the evening, and if we need to look at periods of maybe reduced hours, those sort of discussions, we'll walk through that once we're a little bit through getting contractors set up, things like that.
Good luck. I imagine will be quite disruptive, but
yeah,
good luck in the process.
Yeah.
Right, councillors, anything else on page 25? Okay, go on to page 26.
Yeah, look, I just raised a question, perhaps to Lisa. Cultural and heritage strategy under development requires additional focus. I'm just suggesting perhaps that it may not. I mean, what I'm saying is there's no one out there, as far as I'm aware, saying we must have a new one. It's absolutely essential. The one we've got is, and we keep on hearing about the workload and the number of things we have to do. I'm just wondering if we can't perhaps just politely park this for a little while we clear some of the other pretty substantial stuff in front of us, and then get down to it. So I'm just suggesting that maybe it doesn't, as of right now, require additional focus.
I guess my comment to that would be that this is a direction that's given for elected members, and it was a prioritisation that was set by us. I think there has been a call for it by a number of elected members. If that's something that needs to look at changing, we'll probably need to discuss that in a strategic sense as to what the priority is. But I do probably push back that there's not been any call or any need for it. I actually think that it's been missing in action for some time, and I think it would look quite different to the one that we've got currently, or the bits and pieces we've got currently. So the fact that we're looking at things like external funding, which means that we can actually fund part of that from external sources and build on our capabilities in that respect and actually get the work done, I think it's actually really positive. And the fact that our team has gone outside of council to look for both the funding and how we actually are able to still get it done within the current workloads is actually something we should congratulate them for.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't congratulate them. The point, I mean, it was just the comment is we need additional focus, and I'm simply saying if we keep on hearing about the workload and the number of things that we plan to do, and also suddenly get landed on our laps by central government and others. And I was just wondering if it was possible to button off. But if the view is that by doing it quickly we can access more external funding, then let's give it additional focus.
I do think we need to pull our prioritisation and our things back to our strategic focus. Like we've come up with strategic plan, and this actually sits really strongly in that. And so that's the kind of guidance that we give staff and in a strategic manner. So I think it's really important that we don't kind of send that really strong strategic direction to our staff and then say, we don't think that's important, so don't do it. Would be my comment.
If I could add through the chair as well, I certainly appreciate your sentiment and concern for, we are all working fairly hard on pretty huge priorities. We have got a bit of a plan on how we can tackle this now. So, and to be honest, our managers are really calling out for it as well, because it does frame what we do. I'm just really conscious that we haven't got to it yet. So that's why it keeps coming up there.
All good.
Right.
All right, anything else on page 26? Move on to page 27. Page 28. And page 29. And just speaking to COVID, I really appreciate that the libraries across the district managed to move so quickly to get us set up so that we can still continue operating and not really missing a beat, which I think is pretty fantastic. Probably getting a little bit too used to this stuff. Councillor McGravy.
Just in relation to, thank you, Chair, just in relation to the Otamata Community Library, there's a project underway at the moment to consider introducing the free Wi-Fi concept. I know it's early days, but that will be very helpful to include that library in the process as well. So it's intended for the community along the front of the shopping area there, plus the library. So if that goes ahead, that will be very helpful to the library as well. Pleased about that.
And just to draw the council's attention to in the performance order committee next, we're actually talking a lot about the free Wi-Fi, community Wi-Fi, and what our priorities are there, so that'll feed into that as well.
If I can just add through the chair there, one of the funding opportunities that we've had through the library is the New Zealand Libraries Partnership Program, which, you know, we have secondments in at the moment. Before Philip left, he has actually put an application in for community Wi-Fi funding, which will then, we're not duplicating anything, it will literally go to our IT department to help support what they are doing. So that could be really exciting as well. Just keep you posted on that one.
Right, anything else on page, well, it was on 29, that's right. Page 30. Go to page 31.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just looking at the bottom, the Opera House stats, just a couple of questions. It would seem to me that it's not just the not-for-profit use that's down, it's commercial as well. And they're both pretty much down the same amount. The question I have is, the comment says these comparative figures are pre-COVID-19. But if we're looking at 1 July, 2 March 2019-20, compared with 1 July, 2 March 2021, surely they're not pre-COVID.
2019 is definitely pre-COVID.
Oh yes, I know, but the new figures aren't pre-COVID.
No, but they're comparisons to the pre-COVID.
So yes, so my question is this, do you think that the whole COVID lockdown and things has impacted events and entertainments and establishments like our Opera House on a permanent basis? I mean, is this reduction in bookings likely to persist?
Well, if we continue at level 1, we'll continue to see the business come back to where it was, but we don't have any control over what's going to happen. So if we remain at level 1, I think it will continue to go back to
I'm relieved.
Just on, I guess, the Opera House, and it's probably, obviously we're doing a lot of crystal ball gazing here as well, which makes it challenging. But with numbers down in budgets, at what stage do we come to council if there is a concern and us having to look at doing things slightly differently? Like, are we at that stage, or are you still relatively feel comfortable with where things are sitting?
So if it's all relative income and expenditure, because we're not spending funds on events because there's no income coming in for them. So it's so therefore our budgets are not massively, they're not impacted in that way. We are currently, we've had 3 staff, we've been without 3 staff, so we haven't replaced 2 currently, so we're filling that gap, and as we get busier, there's a real need for us to look at how we reshape that position, those 2 positions.
Okay, now, like, there's certainly interest coming in. Francis is getting bookings for shows years out, getting some interest in some conferences ranging from smaller to larger ones. I think where we would really struggle is if we bounce in and out of lockdowns. And at this stage, you know, things are looking relatively stable, touch wood for now. If we're going to carry on as if we're going to get back up and to push through those numbers as before if we can.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we see some nervousness out there with people booking for things, not knowing quite whether the things will happen or not. So yeah, while we keep bouncing between levels, it's going to be an issue. But yeah, we just hope that we will have enough vaccinations, etc., that we won't run those risks so much. But I think generally, and happy to hear from Francis on this, that actually people are flocking back to events after lockdowns and things, or not being able to go to events. You know, we saw that in Auckland yesterday, and certainly other big events that people are really wanting to get out and go to them.
Definitely. And we have our calendars chock-a-block, so the problem is if we do change levels, we'll be impacted. So you only do, we're told to do levels, level 1 and level 2.
Councillor Austin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was just going to congratulate the Opera House on the number of shows coming up in the near future. You've got a very full calendar of events coming up, and but also the past ones. I know I spoke to some people from out of town who were here for the Solar Neo show. They came from Wanaka to Oamaru trips going to Dunedin. So it's great that it drags people in from, well, not drags, but it attracts people from other areas as well as locals to attend shows here in Oamaru. So it's really amazing. Well done to you and your team, Francis.
Councillor, anything else on 31? I just wanted to ask about the rates rebates. Is 700 a good number for us? Is that up with previous?
It's probably slightly, there's been a bit of a trend that it's slightly reducing each year, even though we try and reach out and contact people and make them aware of the that it is available to them.
Because the rates rebate is covered nationally, isn't it? It's not covered from us in our budget.
No, so yeah, we basically get reimbursed from Terminal Affairs. So yeah, it's a very positive thing. It's just all we can do is publicise it and make people aware of it, make it as easy as possible for them to come in and receive it. So yeah, we'll just keep moving on.
Then, Chair, I think I'm not sure whether people would have heard that stream. Got a little mindful of that. But I think yeah, it may be quite good to actually put some media out about not only that, hey, you know, that these are open, but what actually does this help bring into our community each year, as far as the number who are claiming, because it's a significant contribution and it certainly helps those who are claiming as per their rights.
Yeah. Right, moving on to page 32. Councillor.
Chair, question related to the gallery. First, on our main exhibition over the summer, Cellular Memory has now closed. How do you measure the results of that, and was it successful? If so, what's the key measure apart from people coming through the door who might have been coming for other things? How do you measure the success of that?
Through the chair, I'd say, to be honest, it was mostly we were measuring number and visitors comments. I would like us to be doing some more sophisticated measurement around the success of the exhibition. So today I've got a casual staff member who's doing the Museum Aotearoa Visitor Market Research Survey for the museum, and she'll be doing the gallery next week. And it's something that I'm quite passionate about. In a previous role, I worked with puppet and visitor market research, and I think it's really important that we keep those figures around the success of the exhibitions. And also it's really important for the artists. So I have reported back to Elizabeth Thompson on the publicity and attendance records, which is quite standard for touring exhibitions. But yeah, we've probably been a bit light on some of that research about how successful our exhibitions are. So I hope to have some more details for future exhibitions.
Thank you. Good answer. Thank you.
Anything else on page 32? Okay, 33.
Yes, Madam Chair. congratulations also to the gallery. Current exhibition, pottery one's fantastic, but and so was in the memory. But I particularly note you've got 30% of $50,000 worth of artworks, which, if I'm not mistaken, means you've pocketed, or the gallery's earned $15,000. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, broadly speaking, there's always a slight lag between sort of the money coming in and the commission being, or the remainder being paid out for the artists until the commission, but broadly speaking, yes, we're collecting 30% on those sales.
Well, can I just raise for the committee, and I'm not sure where this goes today, but there used to be, when I was first elected to council, and Gary will remember this, or the mayor will remember this, there was the council, the gallery had a fund to purchase new artworks. Some time ago that disappeared on an economy drive. I don't know how it happened and whether it was resolved by us to do so. But in my view, if the gallery is collecting money from the sale of artworks, that is to be commended. And I believe that some or all of that commission could and should go to a fund that would enable the purchase of new works. So I'd like to think that this committee might recommend that council consider that.
I guess not a bad idea, but maybe it's actually something that we can ask the art gallery to think about whether or not that's where they've probably got their plans as well for the use of that kind of funding. So it'd be really interesting to see strategically.
Well, at the moment they don't get any of it, as I understand it. It just goes into the general council fund. So the real question is, in the first instance, should any or all of it stay with the gallery, and should they have discretion over how it's used or whatever, you know? So.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just acknowledge the irony that Councillor Hopkins is often the one who's saying that these facilities should be earning more money to offset the costs, and when they do, he's now saying they should be using it on a different purpose than offsetting their costs. So I don't disagree with having a fund to purchase art, but equally, if you're wanting facilities to cover 10, 20, 30% of their costs, as been talked about in different times, this is one of the ways that they would be doing that, rather than creating a new cost centre.
Well, except that they're not. As I understand it, this money doesn't stay with the gallery. It isn't used to reduce the gallery's expenditures. So,
I doubt that.
Yes, it is. Sorry, I mean, it goes into the gallery activity. Stays in there as part of the cost centre.
So it reduces the rate impact.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And well done to the gallery for the work that they do in that space.
Well, the question still remains, do we want the gallery to have any ability to buy new work?
Discussion further on.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else on page 33? And page 34. On to page 35. Just on the by-elections, we find out in April, when does the person actually hit the ground for their first meeting?
Through the chair, we hope they'll be available for the May meeting. Oh, so they're appointment will become effective the day after the results are officially declared.
Wow. Dragonfly. Yes. And we'll have some kind of induction. We will make available. Great. Anything else on 35, councillors? And 36. Right, that's all we've got there. So do I have someone to move? Me, Richard. And a second.
Awesome.
Councillor Hopkins,
Sorry.
thank you. Right, any discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Now we've already done our public excluded minutes, so we can close the meeting. Thank you, councillors. So we're still live, councillors, and we're just shuffling around.
Are we breaking?
Got to come back here now.
Thank you. All right, so
Wait for the just to
yes, we just have to wait for a moment for more members of our committee to arrive. Give us a quorum. So apologies to those people who may be watching on live streaming. We'll be in business very soon.
See, Mr. Chair, there's some comments wondering what the PAR committee is on the online community there.
Oh, really?
Explain.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jeremy, Councillor Holding. The PAR committee is the Performance, Audit and Risk Committee. So performance relates to the financial aspects of council. Audit, of course, is what it says, audit, which is completed by Audit New Zealand to verify the financial records of council. And risk is the section of council which is looking at all the wider risks, which include information technology, cybersecurity, reputational risk, all the other types of risks that council is exposed to. Yes, so right, thank you, Mainsley Governance Advisor. We now have a quorum, so we'll now officially start the meeting. So I'll call for apologies, and there's an apology from Councillor Hannah Adelaide, who's not here today. Moved Councillor Holding, seconded Councillor Hopkins. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Here they carry. Declarations of interest. I'm sure you're all very interested, so but nothing in particular. Right, now on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting on the 23rd of February 2021, starting on page 7 of our agenda. Someone like to move?
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just going to raise it. There's a very minor correction on page 8.
If you raise it with the council advisor after the meeting, thanks, Councillor Hopkins.
Well, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, Councillor Holding, Councillor Percival, you.
I also had a correction as well.
Oh, okay. Are they just minor
Well, it's
corrections?
just the fact that it says I was there, and it says I wasn't there, and I wasn't there. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll, make those corrections as may be required. Right, so the minutes is 23rd of February. Would someone like to move adoption of those minutes?
With amendment, yes.
Amendment is, yeah.
I'll second that.
That was moved to Councillor Holding. Seconded to Councillor McGrovey. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Here those carried. So on to the decision reports on 4.1, which is on page 13. Also, Mr. Bill Chow. So, you have any comments for the information of people online or for the members?
Okay, thank you, everyone. As you can see, there's a new face here in the hot seat. I would like to welcome Aaron. So an interim structure was put in place after our program manager, Richard, moved to the financial and corporate development group. So Joe is now the acting program manager, and Aaron was made second in charge of the project management office. and it will be attending future ISPAR meetings. So I would like to highlight a few achievements made during this period and then open to questions. And the first one is information services led the development of the first business continuity plan for Waitaki District Council. So the plan will not only reduce the operational, financial, and reputational risks when facing interruptive events, but it will also enable us to refine our disaster recovery plans according to the different recovery time objectives.
Sorry, what
I
page are
think,
we
I think
on?
we've jumped on, I think, Bill.
Sorry.
We're just on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, free
Oh,
Wi-Fi.
sorry, the Wi-Fi one.
Yeah, 4.1, yeah. Sorry, but that's the next one, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so the Wi-Fi one, really it's just open to questions. We have managed to develop the, or implement the free Wi-Fi in 3 areas before Christmas. And we have statistics showing, more than 1,000 people have been using the Wi-Fi since its implementation in the first three months. And we believe the implementation has achieved its benefit in terms of, the community well-being and the tourism. So we recommend we continue the implementation into phase 2 and in 3 selected locations, and open to questions.
Thank you, Bill. And just to note that the three areas that was installed was the Oamaru Harbour area, Omarama and Palmerston.
Yeah. And
now proposing to install it in Oamaru North at Roberts Park.
Yeah.
Otamatata and Hampton.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Councillor Hopkins.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'll take that as a motion. Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Anybody else any questions on the report? Yeah, Councillor Tim, did you mean to?
I'm not on this committee.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, did you have a question though?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Just want to understand how you came to the 3 you've identified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, there's a table of the future implementation sites. We selected the 3 sites because those are the sites with implementation costs with a high confidence. So we would like to proceed with those. And for some of the sites, like Kurau, we would like to spend more time finding whether there will be alternative solutions so we can further reduce the cost, because the cost, for example, for Kurau now is quite high.
And so you've got Otamatata that's sitting at moderate, which is the same as Kurau when it comes to confidence. Why is that sitting at moderate?
Otamatata. Yeah, okay, so Otamatata. Sorry, Richard, would you like to take on this question?
At the time of writing, we were engaging with the library area up there, and we weren't 100% sure of just where the library was in relation to where we could access points. So we thought we'd say at the time, put it down tomorrow, but I believe we clarified that job. Yeah.
So is there anything with your decision making, is there anything around the perceived need or the expected usage in each of the areas? I'm just trying to understand exactly how we got to the ones involved. Like, I'm not disputing them so much, but I just want to know what a decision making kind of process is behind it.
Yep. Okay, so it's based on a few decision criteria, it's based on a few core selection matrices. So one is the implementation cost and how easy it is and how confident we are with the cost. And the second is whether there will be some existing infrastructure there, like say, for example, the council-owned buildings to support installation, because otherwise we'll have to get into some sort of agreement with the building owner, which is going to greatly increase the complexity of the implementation. And third, of course, we consider the number of residents and and how many people will pass that area. So, for example, in terms of like SH1 or other areas.
if I just respond, Bill, I think Kirau is like an area of larger population, but as you say, as the report states, the council building is a bit too far away from the road. Therefore, the signal is being not being spread to the best effect. So
and at the moment, at the moment of writing this report, Chorus suggested because of the distance between the building and the existing fibre lines, they'll have to dig up the road and do a lot of infrastructure sort of stuff. So the cost at the moment is quite high. So we are looking to alternative solutions and see whether we can reduce the cost.
I guess I probably wonder about Wamaru, the Lower 10th Street one, or if you're all going to back, I know it's got 2 options that are more expensive, but it probably seems like a natural graduation myself.
If I can just make a quick comment on just some of the bit, because I did have a little bit of input in the agenda meeting, but the Oamaru North is an area of low socio-economic demographic, and by putting that out there, that's going to provide a good base for people who don't have internet, and that's part of our community. Lower 10th Street, we've already got the library, and we see people regularly at the library or outside the library and so on, so it's not like there isn't some availability there. So as far as an Oamaru option, that one made sense. With Kirau, I've suggested to the team that they talk to the information centre here, because it is on the main street, it's in the middle of all of the businesses, and it's an organisation that was run by the Technical Society, which is an organisation that we have a contract with, supply services out of that building, and to me it seemed like a very straightforward situation, which doesn't involve digging up a large trench to put cable in, etc. So hopefully they'll bring that up the list with a lower price in due course. Otamatata, there's certainly been need in that building area. There was going to be a funeral held there, which couldn't be held because there wasn't enough certainty around the signal in that area. So that was one thing where it's could have helped, but equally it's a community that there's a lot of people visiting, and I think it'll get pretty good usage overall. Plus our activities in that building, either as the community hall or as the meeting room upstairs or as the library and so on, will benefit from that as well. And Hampton's the other one, I think. And again, another community that has been asking, when do they get theirs? Which isn't the only criteria, of course, but I think they are one that's it's got a good location. It's a relatively cost-effective one to do, and that should be fine. I do just have one question with Otamatata, and that is that we have had discussions with a potential provider there, and I think we can perhaps save most of the $1,000 cost. And I hope that we explore that a little bit further before we commit to spending $11,000. I'm happy to leave it in on the recommended list, so that if that doesn't work out, at least it still goes ahead. But I think it's a good cost-effective layout doing that still.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher, for that information. Councillor King and Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I'm just winding back a little bit and to the comments that Mr. Chow made about the usage in stage 1. How is that information gathered?
Okay, we'll refer that to Joe.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Yep. So when we implemented the infrastructure for public Wi-Fi, we also implemented monitoring tools to gather the traffic that we get to use the infrastructure. So the unit of measure that we have provided is based on the number of unique devices which relates to the user that have connected. So each time you connect for the first time, then it's registered into the system that is connected, and it's unique and it won't be registered. So for each site, we gather each of the connections over 3 months. And reports are generated on a month to month, and we collect the data. So the figure that we provided is for the 3 sites, collected into one final figure. We did not provide a breakdown, but we just provided an overall figure. Yes, there might be some omissions. In case say one connected in Panorama, then they moved to Homeroom, that device is seen as unique. So, but the error is insignificant. That's basically how we have connected.
Thank you, because to me, it's actually quite important to measure the use that it's getting and the worth of it. And so it's really good to have that information.
Yeah, I'm heartened to hear the mayor's comments, and I thought the installation of the site at Albury North made sense for the same reasons that Gary offered us. I just say I'm moved this recommendation because I felt this was a good report, and I was persuaded by the analysis of the risks associated with option 2 that is set out on page 16, and also the conclusion that once we do this stage where certainty is high, costs are relatively low, council could then consider, and I'm sure will consider, a simplified implementation of Wi-Fi at the Oamaru Public Gardens, Lower Thames Street and through pardon me, at stage 3. So it just seemed to me that option 1, as outlined and for the reasons given on page 16, made sense. There we go, I moved it.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Councillor Hopkins. And I was going to comment too, Bill. I noticed under background, the last paragraph on background shows the $75,000 budget for the program. Currently, $15,000 has been spent. $5,000 to extend or strengthen the signal at the Oamaru Harbour. So that's $20,000 spent. So still $55,000 of the project budget remaining. And I assume in terms of that budget being spent, it's a matter of probably being able to actually obtain the equipment and install the equipment in each location.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of actual implementation on the ground.
Yes. So in the consideration section, we also highlighted if we were to do this with the rest sites at the same time, it will create a lot of workload for the information services group staff, and hence it's not recommended. So we recommend go with option 1.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor Tavendale.
Just want to say I'd like to thank Mayor Kircher for his addition to this discussion around priorities. And I guess my comment would be that I'd love to see our reporting talking about what we're trying to achieve. Like this has got all the financial and the risk, which is needed to be there. But we need to sort of take it back to the social and talk about what we're actually trying to do, and then how that actually filters into our decision making. Because I feel like the information in front of us just talk to the risk, it's ready to go now, it's easy, and the finances behind it, when the actual project is about the people and it's about the usage. So just that comment that I really appreciate hearing, that there was other thought processes in there. Because that's important to me.
I can answer to that. So we certainly take the people side of the things into consideration. That's why we in the first report and this report we mentioned, we have to take the social and economic development consideration into it. And the reason for not including some of the data in this report is because we, at the time of writing this report, we are still collecting the data and the usage data, and we are formulating the data so we can have better presentation. And at the moment, we can tell that we have wider usage, and at the time per user varies from 15 minutes to 60 minutes. So if we're talking about tourists, that's like extra time stayed in the area, and say for example in the hub area, that will likely to spend money on coffee and other stuff. So that's all contributing to the economic development. But we are still refining on the data collection processes, and we are sure we can include more of those information in the future reports.
Do you mind if I respond? Just
No,
through the
that's fine,
chair?
Melanie.
Sorry.
Yep.
I just worry you've missed my point of retouch.
Mm.
Like the data, looking at what we're doing now, but when we're looking forward to what we're talking about, I want us to go right back strategically to what our vision is as a council and what we're trying to achieve, and talk about how this would meet those criteria. So it's not all about the data of how many people have used it in Normaru or wherever else they've got it. It's about how does this align with our strategic priorities as the council. We're just trying to lift a little bit up on things with that. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Melanie. Very good point.
Chair.
Yep. Councillor Roby.
Just a question in response to Mel's comment. I think we did that when we originally started talking about this with free Wi-Fi for the district. And I'm sorry, I can't remember what that was, but I'm sure we would not have proceeded had we not discussed that way back last year when we did this initially. So I'm assuming this is a continuing of that. But I hear what you're saying, it's a very good point. But I think we've already done that, but I can't pinpoint where we agreed on it, that's all I'm saying.
Just around the priorities. I
Yes.
think that needs to come back to it again.
The other thing, Chair, if I could just add, with the Ota Matatua, I'm aware that, as we all know, that built like a big brick, what. And so there are three, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, there are 3 points to cover the area. The library is at the back of the concrete big blockhouse. There's upstairs meeting rooms in another part of it, and to get along the front and to get into towards the rugby fields, the community park, as we're now calling it, it needs to have 3 access points. I think, is that correct, or is that not a change since is that correct?
Yeah.
3 points?
Yes, there are 3 separate areas that we need to cater for.
Yes.
The library, the community hall, and the perimeter outside.
So that might explain a little bit about why it's slightly more than the others.
Right. And can I just perhaps ask too, Joe, in terms of that, the outside perimeter, what's the coverage area of that signal? Is it just a short focus, or is it a more extended focus around what do you call it, Rossland and the park?
As I understand it, it's right outside the front of the community hall, to the roadside, goes over towards the community park and to the library. So it doesn't go way back into, like, I'm not that far away, but I can pick it up where I live. So in the immediate frontage of the village.
So right, Joe? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the coverage we planning to put in place is one which covers the front of the store or community building, but we position the devices in such a way that it also beams into the community field. And we are still thinking that we might put another one within the community field so that at least that whole area is covered. So we've covered the front, and anticipating events in the community field, we should be able to have some signal in place.
Very good, thank you. All right, so I think it was Councillor Upton signalled he would move to the resolution. So someone second that, Councillor McRory. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? There they carry. On to page 18, memorandum reports. It's the IS Group Activity Report, and just to acknowledge Councillor Holding is the Associate Chair of IS Information Services. Jeremy, so if you want to make any input, please feel free to do so.
I think Bill, the update on
Just want to highlight a few things. First one is sorry, just said this before. We finished the development of the first business continuity plan, and which is going to help reducing the operational, financial, and reputational risk when facing the interruptive events, and it will also enable us to refine our disaster recovery plans because we now have defined the recovery time objectives. In this reporting period, we have also finished delivering the public Wi-Fi phase 1, we just talked about ahead of time. And we will go more into that in the presentation this afternoon. And on the LG Hub replacement and Hive project, we are now in the position to restart those projects because now we have those vacancies we had since mid last year filled. Finding the right staff proved to be extremely difficult. Now we are conducting internal workshops with IS staff and the executive management team next week to formally kick off the projects. And open the question.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Bill. Yes, open to questions. So if we go back to the start of the report on page 18. Go through it page by page. 18, 19, 20.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to confirm then, that the second one on the project name, Hive, project has been on hold. It is no longer on hold. Is that correct?
It is, we are, as I mentioned before, we are in a position to restart it. We are conducting a few workshops with the EMT team to formally restart it next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not on hold anymore.
Due to start again next week.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, page 20, 21. Look to the Wi-Fi phase, we've been through that. 22, information systems, management.
Just
Yep.
want to comment on the Lagoima request. It's really helpful having that information and a bit more information that's come through now. Come to councillors, it just keeps us abreast of what sort of.
Yeah, it is, and also it illustrates the number of requests that are being received.
Exactly.
So as high as 40 in some quarters and low as what, 16 or in other quarters. So still quite a big workload to deal with.
It's quite a big workload. Some of the Lagoimas will require information management officers a couple of hours to put all the information together. So it's quite a big workload.
Yeah.
Just for the members, the people on the live stream, Lagoima, we're talking jargon here. So the local government official information act requests. So requests received by council from many parties outside of council asking for information on what council has done or may be considering. All right, on to page 23, property file digitisation. Councillor Hopkins.
Yes, Mr. Chair. If somebody can explain to me, under the property file digitisation, there's a reference to the fact that files for large community properties are being requested on a regular basis, McRae's, Geary, Meats, etc. And so question one, is there a reason for that? Why is that happening? And the second question, unfortunately, an increase in property file requests is offsetting the positive impact it was hoped would occur with the number of files being digitised. So what are we saying there? That it's been a pointless exercise, or what? So
just make a correction first. You said community properties. It's commercial.
Oh, so commercial properties. Sorry, did I say commercial? Sorry, my apologies. Commercial, yes.
That's it. So commercial properties, when we digitise a file, we, as a first priority, we look at the building consenting officers. So it suggests that there's more building activity around this commercial properties than we've seen previously. So in the pilot phase, most of the requests we got were for residential properties, and are substantially smaller than commercial property files to digitise.
Okay, so it looks as though it's basically us and other people checking out do things.
Yeah. And with regards to offsetting the positive impact, we were hoping to, we have approximately 14,000 files, and we were hoping to move through those files at a certain pace, and it's much quicker to get through the residential properties. They're much smaller, so when we take up the commercial properties, they're really substantial and equate to, McRae's was really substantial,
so it just takes a lot longer.
It just takes a lot. So we're achieving the outcome of the number of pages that we wanted to digitise, but not the number of files. So they're exceeding our expectations of pages when it comes to files. We're not getting through as much because the profile of what we're digitising has changed from what we expected.
Can I just ask Suzanne, in terms of that, the staff resource doing the property file digitisation, is a full-time staff member on that, or is that just as other?
3 full-time staff.
3.
Okay. Yeah, that's funded by the disaster fund that the one we approved last year.
We were able to employ 2 people that were COVID.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. All right, on to IT, information technology. No, page 24. Different headings there. Any questions on those on the way through? Information services support requests, just showing an increasing number of requests coming in. Significant year-on-year increase in work for the team. Page 25.
Sorry, can I do it? Yes, so we'll get more into this information services support request in the later in the PE section.
Right, thank you, Bill. All right, so that's the end of the report. So would someone like to move that we've received that? Newkircher, seconded Councillor Kingham. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Be carried. All right, now, resolution to exclude the public, to go into public excluded section of the meeting. So moved by Hopkins, seconded Councillor Holding. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Clear that carried. So we'll just pause for a moment while the live stream comes to an end, and just thank people who have been online watching. Thank you for your interest, and yeah, we'll see you again hopefully in the near future.